terrorist attack in Nice. So the very latest coming from the White House. President Obama condemning what appears to be a horrific terrorist attack in Nice. Let's get some of the other international reaction to Nice. A little bit earlier, the White House said its National Security Council spokesperson Ned Price said that the president has been apprised of the situation in Nice, France. His national security team will update him as appropriate. And we've just heard within the past few moments that he has condemned what appears to be a horrific terrorist attack. Well, the presumptive Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has now postponed his vice presidential announcement. He was due to announce his running mate, saying that another horrific attack, this time in France, many dead and injured. When will we learn? It is only getting worse. And Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted that Canadians are shocked by tonight's attack in Nice. Our sympathy is with the victims and our solidarity with the French people. So some of the international reaction that is just coming in to those events that have been unfolding tonight in Nice, and we know at least 70 people believed to have been killed. Now, a short time ago, I spoke to the BBC's Rory Kelly, who was at the fireworks display into which that truck drove into.
I live just 200 metres away from the Promenade des Anglais, and I was at Bastille Day celebrations watching the fireworks. And as they ended, I turned around and walked down the road, which is, as I say, 200 metres back to my flat. And as I was walking back, I suddenly heard a lot of screaming, and what I sounded like an explosion, but that may have been my imagination. And then the next thing was that people were running away and the police were running towards the scene. And then the next thing I heard was there were shots, and there clearly were gunshots. I wasn't sure at first, but I've just looked at French TV. I managed to get back to my flat 3 minutes ago. And yes, the mayor, as you just said in your introduction, has now asked everybody to stay indoors, and the possibility of dozens killed. It was shocking. It was a shocking situation because leading up to that moment, it was a very celebratory atmosphere. There were lots of locals, lots of tourists there on the promenade. The promenade had been closed down during the day to let the tourists go there. It was a fantastic fireworks celebration. And sadly, it's ended in this way. But at the moment, the situation is that the place is, I suppose, to use an expression, in lockdown at the moment.
Yes, and given the security situation, France has been on a heightened security situation, and we had the Euro 2016 tournament as well, of course, but that was a very successful competition, and now to have something like this end what has been a relatively successful period for France, it must be devastating given that this is Bastille Day, a hugely popular day of celebration, as you put it, Roy.
It is indeed. I mean, I've lived in France for a while now, and I think it's fair to say that the country has been on alert for quite some time. I mean, here in Nice, where we haven't been touched by, I suppose, terrorist attacks in the past, soldiers still walk the streets, and the police are very much on alert all of the time. But Nice is a popular destination for so many people. It's always busy. It's a very relaxed city. That's the reason why I live here, is because I love it so much, and I love the people. And I don't suppose any of us really expected anything like this to happen. But I suppose if it was ever going to happen, it was going to happen on a day like today, Bastille Day. I'm just actually watching French TV at the moment, and the situation is that the mayor, as you said, has asked everybody to stay indoors. It's taken me something like 1.5 hours to get from the Promenade des Anglais back to my flat because the police have locked down all the streets. And I'm now back in my flat now, and I can still hear the police sirens taken, outside.
So, Roy, you have managed to get back into your flat. Just give us a little bit of indication as to how the day had unfolded, because, of course, Bastille Day, incredibly popular. I know the celebrations in Paris are absolutely huge within the Bastille area. But in terms of Nice, it's very warm there, of course. It's a holiday resort, incredibly glamorous, popular. Lots and lots of people out on the streets.
Absolutely. I mean, the day was, I suppose, just like any other here in Nice. As you say, it's always hot. I mean, the temperatures were something like 31 degrees during the day. It's full of tourists. There's a celebration atmosphere, as there always is. They've set up special stages for Bastille Day, but it's also the Nice Jazz Festival coming up in the next few days. So there's a lot of building work and a lot of preparations for such thing. And On a day like today, in the middle of July, it is packed with British, German, Italian tourists, plus, of course, French tourists as well, a lot of Americans here. So it is a heaving seaside resort, and it's a very popular seaside resort. So the day itself was, to be honest, just like any other day. The firework display wasn't due to take place until 10 o'clock our time, which is 2 hours ago, because that's when it got dark. And at that point, there were literally thousands of people on the promenade, which had been closed down to the traffic. And it was just a celebratory atmosphere. And then, sadly, within 3 or 4 minutes, it's turned out to, well, what we're discussing now, sadly.
Absolutely. And Roy, just in terms of you getting back to your flat, getting back to your location, do you think are the streets, from what we can see, we're watching live pictures now from Nice, from the Promenade d'Anglais, are people being urged to get back, to stay indoors if they haven't left, or to get back to their respective homes?
Absolutely. I mean, the police have completely taken over the city at the moment, as you might imagine. The promenade has now been closed down, and so anybody who wants to get on there is physically pushed away from the site and told to get back in no uncertain terms by the police, understandably so. They are taking charge of the situation. There are still people walking around who probably are struggling to get back. As I said, I live 200 meters from the promenade and very fortunate to live. And it's taken me nearly 1.5 hours to get from the promenade back to my flat because all the roads have been closed down. I've had to take detours, etc., or just wait until the police would let me through. But at the moment, there are still people on the... The other problem we've got here at the moment is that because the promenade was closed down, all of the traffic, which is quite heavy in the city, was rediverted through the city, which meaning a lot of the police cars and the ambulances can't physically promenade because of the number of cars on the road at the moment. So that's another problem the police are having to deal with. But it is at the moment a sense of, and I hate to use this expression, but mild panic at the moment in the city.
So that was the BBC's Roy Kelly speaking to me a little bit earlier. He was among the day celebrations when obviously this attack took place. Now, just a very grim update on the now being told by an authority member that 75 people have been killed in that attack in Nice in the south of France when that truck drove into members of the public who were watching Bastille Day celebrations. 75 people killed, around 50 people injured, 15 people are critically injured, and that's according to a Nice deputy spokesperson. We'll get more confirmation of exact figures, but the grim news that 75 people are now known to have lost their lives in that when the white truck that we've been seeing crashed into who were promenading along the Promenade des Anglais in Nice, enjoying the Bastille Day celebrations. One person who was also watching the Bastille, journalist, she told us what she witnessed.
Well, I was down on the Promenade des Anglais along with everyone else who was celebrating Bastille Day in Nice, and I think probably a couple of minutes after I'd left there, the attack must have happened because I was screaming and running away from the main square, and I kept stopping them and saying "Qu'est-ce qui se passe?" and they were saying they didn't know what was going on, but they were running, and there were lots of sirens. Going back to my staying and bumped into a family with a young child who were invited to come and stay in too. They've got somewhere safe because the police are saying that I'm indoors basically. We're just watching the French news now, which is saying that there are 60 dead and there are helicopters landing where like an hour and a half